Great. Thank you so much. And it is a pleasure to be here to talk about how to unleash your inner coach so that you can drive improved business and people results. It is a privilege to be doing this webinar in partnership with the best and brightest in its mission to recognize the most influential trend-setting organizations across the country. Coaching is a passion of mine, and it has become a tremendously effective and popular method for developing and managing others. In fact, a recent Brandon Hall benchmarking survey states that coaching is the most effective approach for developing others, beating out e-learning, informal peer-to-peer learning, on-the-job, and even classroom instruction. As I travel throughout the world working with leaders at all levels, I can confirm this with our own research and client work. I've had the privilege of coaching and developing thousands of leaders across the world, as well as coaching coaches to further refine their coaching ability. To introduce myself, let me share one of my favorite coaching stories. Years ago, I was asked to coach a hospital president. He told me he had gone to many leadership programs and had several coaches before. In other words, he felt confident in his ability to lead his people, and he told me so. However, he was struggling in helping his team be more proactive and more focused on improving themselves and the hospital. During the coaching process, we discussed ways to change his monthly staff meeting, where he typically focused just on the financials, a practice he had been doing for 10 years. Instead,
excuse me, Daniel?
Yes.
Yeah, there is a little bit of trouble hearing. Can you try that, moving that microphone again?
Let's test this. Is everything working better now?
Let's see if anybody responds. If you're having trouble hearing, can you hear Daniel now? Okay, they're saying okay. All right, yeah, keep that close to you. All right, thanks.
Great. Let me start exactly where people stopped hearing, wherever that might be. Let me dive into this example that I'm sharing in terms of working with a hospital president and having he come up with the idea of devoting half of the meeting to personal and team development, asking each person to share what they were learning and doing to improve themselves. He and others on the team provided on-the-spot encouragement, feedback, and support. This was a large departure from anything he had ever done before. I'll never forget our following coaching session when he came in so thrilled that the tone of his team was changing. They were becoming more collaborative and suggesting ways to improve. His team began to thrive, and the engagement scores improved as well. He took a risk, a development risk, to encourage learning for himself and for his team. In other words, he unleashed his inner coach. Are you ready to strengthen and unleash your inner coach? I have a friend who is a talented musician and educator. He teaches high school choir and music to hundreds of students every year. As we were chatting and catching up one evening, he asked me a powerful question. What is the one thing that leaders need to do to be successful? Only one thing? I was stumped, not because I didn't have an answer, but because I had too many answers. I began telling him all the essential skills leaders need to have, like establishing clear expectations and developing talent and holding people accountable and so on. He stopped me and asked again for that one thing. With a frustrated smile, I turned it back on him, asking the same question. What is the one thing that singers need to have to be successful? He was quick with an answer: breathing. Singers need to learn good breathing technique. Otherwise, they can't sing. Oh, I thought. That made a lot of sense. He wasn't discounting the need to read music, stay on key, feel the rhythm of the beat, and all of that. Instead, he isolated it down to the starting point, the essential behavior that enables everything else to flow and to have the potential to become beautiful music. I've had a chance to further reflect on his original question and have identified an answer. The answer, if it is done well, will enable change to happen more smoothly. Teams become more cohesive, and employees become more effective and engaged. The answer is coaching. To have the courage to learn and to hold others accountable to that learning so the person, team, and organization can accomplish aligned results. It is a willingness to be uncomfortable, to hear feedback and question assumptions, and a belief that through the discomfort, something better will emerge. Whether it is a hallway conversation or a formal one-on-one meeting, the process of a manager effectively coaching an employee is to leadership as breathing is to music. Strong coaches regularly ask probing questions, provide timely and actionable feedback, and follow up on prioritized actions. Great coaching enables great leadership. Today, we are going on a quick trip through unleashing your inner coach. We will be focusing on the following 5 outcomes: developing a coaching mindset, understanding formal and informal coaching, learning the 6 factors for great impromptu coaching, discussing the 8 essential coaching behaviors, and ultimately developing a plan to improve your coaching. So as you start a fresh day tomorrow, you can dive in and unleash that inner coach. Let's get going. Think of a great coach you've had. What did they do that made them a great coach? Did they yell in your face? Or were they incredibly interested in your issues or concerns? Did they do all the talking? Or did they focus more on listening? A finance director I was coaching once would often have a very emotional reaction when something wouldn't go the way she wanted. She would interrupt or even stop listening to others altogether. She would then take the work on herself to make sure it was done exactly right. I suspect we have all experienced someone who doesn't understand the power of coaching and building up others around them. Some common elements of bad coaching include thinking mistakes are grounds for failure, telling more often than asking and listening, expecting people will self-develop without support, and withholding feedback or delivering feedback in general terms only. In other words, poor coaching is all about the coach's needs and not focused on learning for the other person. So what does good coaching look like? I had the privilege of working with a regional manager with a large financial services organization. He was an amazing coach. I observed him during a one-on-one meeting with one of his direct reports. He used open-ended questions, asking them what they would recommend on how to solve problems and hitting their daily sales goals. He provided positive and constructive feedback to encourage learning and performance, and he regularly followed up on agreed-upon tasks. He showed how good coaching is the ability to guide and challenge an individual to achieve improved performance through self-discovery, feedback, encouragement, and skill development. In essence, coaching is all about helping the other person, helping them achieve more. Great coaching looks like matching individual ability and attitude with assignments, providing regular and in-the-moment feedback, supporting the individual to own their development and performance, and creating an environment of support and self-discovery. And in fact, there are 2 kinds of coaching, formal and informal. Both are important and can be complementary. Yet sometimes a manager might feel that coaching must be scheduled or programmatic to be effective. For example, following a prescribed structure or agenda in formal one-on-one meetings. While formal coaching can be very helpful, it usually happens less than 25% of the time. The reality is coaching for managers more often happens on the fly, during spontaneous and often brief conversations that can generate powerful insights for others. It happens in the hallway, walking between meetings, over email or on the phone. Let's explore what is unique about each of these types of coaching. First, formal coaching. The most obvious characteristic of formal coaching is that it is being used explicitly. During the session, both parties are clear that they are engaged in coaching and are committed to this process as well as the outcome. Formal coaching usually takes place during scheduled appointments with a beginning and an end, often with an agenda. It sends a powerful signal to individual team members that their development and success is important and that the manager is there to provide support and what is discussed will be followed up on. The clear parameters of formal coaching mean that both coach and coachee tend to spend most sessions in coaching mode, which means with the coachee doing most of the talking and the manager coach primarily engaged in listening, asking questions, and giving feedback. This was shown during the one-on-one meeting with the regional manager I referenced earlier. Now let's shift to the other side, informal coaching. It does not take place in scheduled appointments, but in everyday workplace conversations, over the phone, through email, walking down that hallway between meetings. These conversations may be short or long, one-to-one, or within a group, task-focused or people-focused. What qualifies them as coaching is not a formal model or structure, but a style of conversation. Sometimes one might not even think to call it coaching. It is a managerial style of someone who takes the time to listen carefully to others and ask questions that empower them to find their own way of meeting a challenge or solving a problem without always being told what to do. Because informal coaching is a way of doing things rather than a clearly defined program, there is no overall beginning and end, but it's an ongoing process. The conversation becomes open-ended, with markers such as goal setting and review occurring along the way, not just as bookends, but part of a larger process of learning. As informal coaching is not confined to formal sessions, this leadership style is not used exclusively, but according to the demands of the situation, as part of a range of management styles. During a given conversation, a manager may switch in and out of coaching mode, as well as using other management styles. The point is, both formal and informal coaching can be powerful ways to inspire, develop, and support others. Building coaching muscle and knowing how to develop a coaching mindset is key to leveraging the power of coaching. So let's talk about some real-life scenarios. See if any of these scenarios sound familiar and think, how would I handle them? First one, you are leaving a meeting with one of your employees who just did a great job at presenting a new idea. As you exit the meeting, what should you do? Do you compliment them now? Do you wait until later? Or do you just let it go and not say anything? Second scenario, one of your employees is in the middle of a large project and is unable to get traction. The project seems to be spinning without much forward movement. While waiting on a conference call with her, do you ask for more information about the project's obstacles? Or do you wait until an official project team meeting to discuss later that week? Or do you just let it go and assume it'll work itself out naturally? Third scenario, suppose you were just told some helpful information about one of your employee's career goals, and you know you could help him develop his skills to meet those goals. As you pass him in the hall, do you share a personal career experience with him? Do you ask an insightful question? Or do you just give him a fist bump and wish him a good day? Each week, you likely have dozens of moments where potential coaching opportunities are laid in front of you. The question is, what to do with these coachable possibilities? How do you leverage these brief and fluid conversations to inform, inspire, and align, to help develop your ability and courage to coach others? Here are 6 factors that can lead to making the best of coachable opportunities. Factor number 1, identifying those coachable moments. These coachable moments can come in many forms, and they are often best identified when there is a deviation from what was expected performance, either good or bad. These are great learning moments, times when there is the greatest potential for new awareness and insight. If you look at the slide below in that red, when problems or issues arise, these are ideal potential opportunities to probe deeper and also to challenge others to reframe the issue, to question how they think about something, and explore new possible solutions. And then as you look above the line in the blue, celebrating wins, even small ones, is a great time to provide coaching to reinforce the behaviors that led to the success. Asking the individual what helped them achieve the success. What did they learn? How can they teach others these insights? Are great ways to help someone develop. Let me share an example. A marketing director struggled adjusting her leadership style to the needs of each of her direct reports. She wanted each person on her team to be successful and keep up with a high rate of growth, but they were not all performing at the same rate. This frustrated her, and she often withdrew her attention from those who asked more questions and required more of her time. As she withdrew her attention, this only worsened the problem. She had a huge aha moment when she realized that she was playing favorites, giving more attention and time to the seasoned team members and less time and coaching to the new team members. Yet the new team members needed more of her coaching to become like the seasoned folks. She began adjusting her leadership approach when working with her younger team members, taking advantage of instead of ignoring those coachable moments. Instead of giving quick directions and expecting advanced work from them, she was much more specific in her expectations and offered additional support. She gave more time to listen to their thoughts, allowing them to ask more questions, and confirming their understanding of expectations. She found over 2 to 3 months that the newer team members began to produce higher quality work and spoke with greater confidence around her, presenting more sophisticated ideas to help the business move forward. In other words, she made a conscious choice to identify and use coachable moments to improve performance. Next factor, asking questions instead of providing answers. Too often, managers feel they need to have the right answer or feel compelled to offer their own answers first. This tendency can prevent great questions from encouraging employee thinking and growth. It can also increase managerial workload in taking on employee problems instead of allowing employees to try and solve their own problems. Open-ended questions such as, "What are you learning?" or "What are your suggested solutions?" can prompt a fantastic coaching conversation. A general manager in a government services firm was wondering about the commitment level of a newly promoted vice president. The GM preferred a very direct style, and the VP was not addressing challenges the same way he would have. Thus, he assumed the VP was not as engaged and committed to being successful in her new role. His first reaction was to be aggressive with her and informing her that he doubted her commitment. However, his inner coach won, and he reframed his phone call with her with a series of questions asking her how she manages conflict, how she needs to and prefers to manage her team, and how she prioritizes and views her goals. He learned that she was incredibly committed and yet showed that commitment in different ways than he would show it. He was clear with his performance expectations while listening and allowing her to lead in a way that fit her and her team. Third factor, building a trusting relationship. Coaching moments can be ineffective if the employee does not believe you have their best interest at heart. If they don't trust your competence, character, or motives, they will likely not value your coaching approach or comments. Show interest in your employees by learning about their strengths, preferences, and areas of growth. Invest in them, and they will be more open to your guidance and questions in coaching moments. Reflect on each of your people and identify ways to strengthen the level of trust you have for each person. Here is a great example of the impact of building a trusting relationship. During a company restructure, a vice president of sales in an information services organization that we've worked with was told she was losing half of her team, and yet her sales goals were increasing. And on top of that, she would now report to the CFO, who had a reputation for, shall we say, not unleashing his inner coach. However, because of the previous trust she had built with each of her remaining team members, the team did not fight against her as she delivered the hard news. Instead, they believed in her leadership and in the team's ability to rise to meet the new sales goals. Amazingly, as they banded together, no one left the team, and they hit and even exceeded their sales targets. Without the level of trust that the VP cultivated through active listening and alignment of people's strengths and business opportunities, turnover would have been much higher, and their team would have likely struggled in achieving their goals. Next factor, measuring the coachability of each employee. Gauging the degree of coachability of an employee is very important in optimizing a coachable opportunity. Coachability is the openness that someone has in learning and improving, and it can differ by person and situation. Some employees are open to self-reflection anytime, or are very verbally expressive, ready to launch into a conversation at a moment's notice. Others are more reluctant to considering change, or are very guarded in what they say to their boss or to others. Consider your employees. Where might they fall on the coachability continuum? Are they on the low end, possibly resisting or even fighting against coaching? Are they at the fair step, having a small willingness to be open, but often being apathetic to the coaching itself or the feedback? Are they in the good coachability, generally accepting of self-reflection or hearing feedback? Or are they excellent at their coachability, naturally seeking feedback and insights from others and willingly adapting to new situations? Coachability makes a big difference in how you decide the level of on-the-fly coaching you provide. Are you taking advantage of the many coachable moments that will appear with those with excellent or good coachability to truly optimize their performance and growth? Are you being respectful and selective when you decide to engage in a coachable moment, but also being direct as those coachable moments occur with those who have fair or low coachability? Measuring your employees on a coachability scale from low to high can help you know how and when to have a coachable moment with them. Factor number 5, creating the right setting. In manufacturing settings, we spend a lot of time creating a safe working environment. Creating the right and safe environment is also important for a coaching situation, especially a psychologically safe environment where conversation can be open and candid. Finding the right environment is key for an impromptu coaching moment to be effective. Walking down the hallway might be ideal for a brief conversation. However, be aware of who else might be there and could possibly overhear if the nature of the conversation is more private. Quickly stepping into an empty conference room, sitting on the far end of the cafeteria, or having a brief phone call can often be a safer way for a productive coaching conversation. Ask yourself, how can I create the right setting so that both of us feel comfortable to have an open conversation? And 6, the 6th factor, using time wisely. We all have busy schedules, but taking advantage of times like the minutes before or after meetings can be a very effective way of engaging in a coaching conversation. Try to match the amount of time with right-sized questions or comments. For example, sharing positive feedback in a quick hallway conversation may fit well. However, starting a career conversation in the hallway might not. In the end, don't let time prevent you from having coaching conversations, though. Sometimes it is better to start something and then acknowledge and set up a time to finish it than simply ignore something that could really be beneficial for the employee. I once had a manager who, after meetings, would often say, "Walk with me." We would then chat for 2 or 3 minutes as we walked and talked together to his next meeting. It was excellent use of time and a simple way to recap the next steps and provide feedback from the meeting. We could then schedule more time as needed, but his walk with me approach fit well with the quick review of the meeting while it was fresh on our minds. Remember these 6 factors to optimize your coaching. Reflect on each of these factors and identify how you will coach differently starting today and tomorrow and next week by asking these 6 questions. First, when did someone show above or below performance? Second, what powerful questions can I then ask? 3, how have I invested in our relationship? 4, how open are they to coaching? 5, what is a safe environment that we can use to have a coaching conversation? And 6, how can I be respectful of time, both for them and also for mine? As we've discussed, the majority of managerial coaching often occurs on the fly in brief conversations. These are often the pivotal conversations that shape results. Managers who identify and leverage these coachable moments can often increase employee engagement and performance alignment. Embrace coachable moments and see your team thrive. Now, let's take this to the next level. At the gym I attend, the trainer will often introduce exercises and say if you want to really challenge yourself, you can mod up the activity. So here's the mod up for all of you who want to really challenge yourself. Here are the 8 essential coaching skills you need to develop and master. Just like working out, they require frequent practice to keep your coaching muscles strong. Some we've touched upon already, and others are new. First one, building rapport, the ability to develop a trusting and open working relationship. Building rapport is an ongoing activity that is critical to a successful coaching relationship. Ask yourself, how do I actively establish and strengthen a trusting relationship with each person I lead? Second, asking questions. The right question can reframe, reveal, and inform challenges, opportunities, and solutions in new ways. A great coach poses questions that are based more on the needs of the other person than on their own agenda. Ask yourself, how do I use open-ended questions to help others gain new insights and solve problems. Third, active listening. It's the ability to truly understand the context and meaning of what someone is saying, listening without an agenda, embracing silence as an ally, and probing deeper to confirm you understand what they are wanting to convey. Ask yourself, how do I ensure I'm completely focused when others are speaking? Number 4, providing feedback, the ability to share comments and insights in a way that is helpful to the other person. Ground your feedback in the actual behavior, its impact, and how more or less of that behavior can create a better impact in the future. Reflect and ask yourself, how do I focus on behaviors and not on my own storytelling as I give feedback? 5th, exploring. Exploring means to discover and discuss alternative perspectives that lead to new and better solutions. For exploring or brainstorming to be successful, avoid critiquing ideas too soon and allow the other person's space to self-discover. Ask yourself, how do I help explore different perspectives and solutions without critiquing? 6, goal setting. Effective goal setting means partnering with an individual to turn insight into action. The strong coaching manager provides guidance and feedback on goals, helping the individual own, adjust, and learn from those goals. Ask yourself, how do I help others create goals that appropriately stretch the individual? 7, encouraging. To encourage is to be a source of support and reinforcement, to help keep an individual focused on the goals they have set. A successful coaching manager helps keep things prioritized and focused through honest and motivating reinforcement. Ask yourself, how do I support others in helping them be confident in achieving their goals? And 8, recognizing. Recognizing progress is key to supporting goal execution, while encouraging is about helping someone feel confident that they can achieve their goals. Recognizing is acknowledging the accomplishment itself when they need it. Ask yourself, how do I celebrate the progress that others make toward their goals? Now, how do these skills all work together in a more formal coaching situation as well? Well, here it is. This is the coaching model that pulls it all together. It shows the 5 steps to a formal coaching conversation and when the 8 coaching skills are best used. It all begins with clarifying the objective, assessing the situation and person, providing feedback from yourself and others, establishing stretch and align goals, and supporting the implementation of those goals to achieve improved people and business results. These are the skills and steps that we learn and practice in our on-site coaching workshops and coaching programs. So, how do we pull this all together? And what can you start to do immediately to make a difference in your coaching? We've talked a lot about the importance of coaching, how to coach on the fly, and the essential coaching skills. Coaching can be more challenging than it appears and can often require a lot of self-reflection and self-confidence. As we conclude, let me share some research on this. In a recent journal article, a pair of coaching researchers from Australia conducted a series of interviews to determine what factors influence whether managers decide to take advantage of coachable moments. They discovered that the situation, the relationship between the manager as coach and the employee, and the coach's confidence in his or her own coaching skills played a significant role. In many cases, managers failed to seize a coachable moment due to a perceived personal risk. In other words, if you want to be ready to coach others in either a formal or informal situation, you need to feel safe and confident in your own ability. To help you feel safe and confident as you are approaching a potential coachable situation, Ask yourself these questions. Am I willing to suspend judgment as I listen? Am I willing to hold back on giving advice? Am I willing to focus on their needs first? Am I willing to help them think things through? Am I willing to support without taking on the work? Am I willing to provide behavior-based and future-oriented feedback? Am I willing to accept the actions chosen by the person being coached? In conclusion here, let me sum things up. Beneath every leader's ID badge is a hidden layer with a very important message. While some recognize and embrace this message, too many others have no idea it is there or choose to ignore it. This often unseen message defines a leader as much as the name, title, and organization that is branded so clearly across the badge. The statement is simple yet powerful. I coach. It means that I coach members of my team to greater levels of performance. I coach members of my team to higher levels of engagement. And I coach members of my team because learning and improving is what we do. Let me share one other story about the impact of coaching. A well-respected director within his organization often struggled to secure executive engagement and buy-in for his key initiatives. His unsuccessful change management efforts left him feeling defeated and disengaged. After a while, he became hesitant to even voice his opinion, avoiding eye contact, and stopped trying to influence change efforts at all. Luckily, through the coaching from his boss and others, including themes from a 360-degree feedback assessment, he learned that others believed his leadership effectiveness was greater than how he viewed his own leadership abilities. He felt empowered. He had assumed he was viewed as an overall weak leader. He started having more confidence in himself, and senior leaders started saying, "Wow, what happened to him? He's on fire and doing excellent work." One could even observe his physical countenance change. He started standing up taller, was more engaged, and conveyed a greater sense of confidence in being an executive leader. So my parting invitation and challenge to you is to do two things. Identify coachable moments, and two, have the courage to act on them. Coaching can change lives and can help bring out the best in each person, whether using a formal or an informal approach. For a manager or leader who understands their true role, they embrace and live this simple statement: I coach. Great coaching enables great leadership. Before I take some questions, if you or others in your organization are wanting to further develop your inner coach, please connect with us. There's a link here. I don't know if it's quite working, but we can get that to you so that you can have some resources and some options to help develop your inner coach for you and your leaders. I wish you nothing but the best on your coaching journey. So now let me pause, and I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks so very much. This is Jan again. I do have a couple questions. The biggest thing I hear from our HR peer groups is people come to them and say, I don't have time to do my own job. How am I going to find time to, quote, unquote, coach someone? They just need to do their jobs.
Right. That is a very common thing that I hear as well a lot. So a couple of thoughts. One, I want to acknowledge that people's jobs are busy. We all have lots on our plates, and we can't ignore that fact. The other question is, do we really have time not to coach? Especially as we're talking today, sometimes we may have this misperception that coaching needs to take hours and hours and be this really formal effort. But let's keep in mind the great majority of coaching, it can happen in a matter of minutes here and there as we're engaged. And that's what I often will then share with various managers and leaders. to open up their mind so that they can, when they're walking in between meetings, for example, not plan 30, 40, hours of their time, but rather take advantage of those leader moments where they can then have a mindset to help frame and develop somebody else, even quickly. And that mindset typically doesn't take any more time. It's more so a change inside of them. And that's what we've been talking about today. So it's changing
Great.
that mindset, helping them recognize the informal coaching that can happen.
Very good point. A question we have is, do you find that the different generations of workers have a direct correlation to their being receptive to coaching?
That
In other words,
that is a great one.
Go ahead. As old as I am now, most of my supervisors for the last 10 years have been younger than me.
Yeah. This is such a common situation that all of us are seeing more and more. And what I'm finding is that as more generations are entering the workforce, yes, everyone is going to have a different style and approach, but there is a trend, and that trend is toward more open, candid, and more frequent dialogue. And that is very much in line with having a more informal coaching mindset more often. I find younger folks, as they come in, they expect more frequent dialogue and conversation. They expect a coaching mindset. They may not always be as open to it. That I get. We all may struggle hearing comments that we might not like. But to keep that level of trust and openness, that coaching mindset up is key, especially as we tackle multiple generations in the workforce.
Very good.